Hello and welcome to Secure Horizons, a special edition from the Westferry Times. I'm Emily Carter, and today we're doing a deep dive into the UK's national security and defense, a really vital topic right now. And joining me to guide us through this is Dr. James Thornton. He's a highly respected defense analyst, brings over 2 decades of experience in strategic policy, military affairs, just a wealth of knowledge. Dr. Thornton, it's really great to have you here.
Thanks, Emily. Glad to be here.
So let's jump right in. It's May 2025. Can you give us an overview? What does the UK's defense posture actually look like today?
Well, the defining characteristic right now is a really significant shift in investment. Back in February, Prime Minister Starmer announced quite a substantial increase in defense spending.
Right.
The commitment is to reach 2.5% of GDP by 2027. And on top of that, there's an additional 0.1% earmarked for intelligence and security services.
So 2.6% total.
Exactly, 2.6%. And, to give that some context, that level of investment, well, it's the biggest boost defense has seen since the Cold War ended.
Wow, since the Cold War. That is significant. What's driving this? Why this major reinvestment now?
There are several key drivers, really. First, you just have to look at the global picture. Geopolitical tensions are definitely heightened. And that inherently demands a more robust defense capability. Then there's technology. It's advancing so rapidly that continuous modernization isn't just desirable, it's essential. We have to keep pace.
Can you give an example of that modernization?
Sure. A good one is the UK's involvement in the Global Combat Air Program, GCAP.
Ah, yes, with Italy and Japan.
That's the one. It's a collaboration to develop a next generation, a sixth-generation stealth fighter. And it's not just about the hardware, the planes themselves. It's about ensuring we maintain that cutting-edge air capability for years to come, and importantly, sharing the huge costs and expertise with key allies.
That makes sense. And speaking of cutting edge, let's talk cyber. It seems absolutely central to defense discussions now. How's the UK approaching cyber threats?
You're absolutely right. Cybersecurity isn't just a supporting player anymore. It's kind of front and center. The UK's approach is pretty comprehensive. A major step was establishing the National Cyber Force, the NCF. This brings together offensive cyber capabilities under one command. The idea is to proactively tackle threats, whether they come from hostile states, terrorist organizations, or sophisticated cybercriminals.
So that's the offensive side. What about defense?
On the defensive side, the government's put forward the Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill. The main aim there is to significantly strengthen the UK's overall cyber defenses. It involves updating existing rules, expanding their scope to cover more organizations. It's about hardening our digital infrastructure.
Building digital walls, essentially.
In a way, yes. Projecting strength, but also fortifying our own networks.
Now, we often hear concerns about technology, specifically hardware coming from overseas. Potential vulnerabilities. What's the situation there?
Yes, this is a really critical point and getting a lot of attention. There are let's say, legitimate concerns, particularly regarding things like Chinese-manufactured cellular IoT modules. These tiny components are embedded in, well, all sorts of devices across the UK.
IoT, Internet of Things, so connected devices.
Exactly, connected devices. And security experts have warned about the potential for these modules to be accessed remotely. That could theoretically create vulnerabilities in critical systems. Think traffic management systems, maybe even connected cars, electric vehicles.
That sounds quite alarming.
It highlights the need for really careful scrutiny of our technology supply chains. We need to know what's in our systems. And it raises questions about technological sovereignty, how much critical tech should be domestically controlled or sourced from trusted partners. It's a growing issue.
Definitely something to watch. Let's shift slightly to the legal side. How is legislation underpinning all this, strengthening security?
Legislation is fundamental, really. The cornerstone recently has been the National Security Act 2023.
Okay, what does that do?
It's a landmark piece of legislation. It essentially modernizes the UK's legal tools to combat threats like espionage, sabotage, foreign interference threats that have evolved significantly. It introduces new criminal offenses too. Things like assisting a foreign intelligence service or sabotage specifically intended to benefit a foreign power.
And the penalty.
They're serious, up to life imprisonment in some cases. The Act also set up a foreign influence registration scheme. The goal there is more transparency about the political activities of foreign powers within the UK.
So how does this act actually help on the ground for intelligence agencies, law enforcement?
It gives them updated, more relevant tools. Modern threats, they often operate in gray areas, blurring lines between state activity and other forms of interference.
Right.
This act provides a much clearer and more robust legal basis to detect, to disrupt, and ultimately to prosecute hostile activities. It's about building resilience against both traditional spying and newer forms of aggression.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, you mentioned technology earlier. Innovation must be absolutely key to maintaining a defense edge. What's being done to boost that?
Absolutely critical. And the government seems to recognize this. They've rolled out quite a significant support package aimed specifically at small and medium-sized businesses, SMEs, in the defense sector.
Why SMEs in particular?
The idea is to tap into their agility and innovation, really accelerate their growth, and get their ideas into the mainstream defense supply chain faster. Part of this involves practical measures, like trying to reduce procurement times, making it easier for smaller companies to actually win MOD contracts.
That's often cited as a barrier.
Exactly. And alongside that, they're establishing a new dedicated innovation body. It's got a substantial budget, around $400 million, and should be up and running by July this year, 2025. The stated ambition behind all this is quite bold: to transform the UK into a defense industrial superpower.
A super.
That's the term being used. It relies heavily on fostering much stronger public-private partnerships and streamlining how innovations actually get adopted and used by the armed forces.
Are there specific technologies getting the most focus in this innovation drive?
Yes, there are definite priorities. Robotics and autonomous systems are huge. They could really change how operations are conducted. There's also a strong focus on improving air defense capabilities. Artificial intelligence, AI, is another major area, looking at its applications across defense, and of course, continuing to enhance intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance ISR capabilities, getting better information faster.
And who's coordinating this investment?
Well, the new Defense Innovation Agency, set to launch early this year, is meant to play that coordinating role. Its job will be to channel investment into these priority areas and, crucially, ensure that promising technologies move quickly from development to operational readiness, getting them out there.
It sounds like a lot is happening domestically, but in defense, international cooperation is usually vital too. How is the UK engaging with allies?
You're spot on. In today's world, no country can really go it alone on security. Alliances are more important than ever, and the UK is actively working to strengthen those ties. A key example recently was the Trinity House Agreement signed with Germany in October 2024.
What did that involve?
It's aimed at deepening defense cooperation right across the board: land, sea, air, cyberspace. It really underlines the UK's commitment to European security post-Brexit.
Okay.
And we already mentioned GCAP-T, the fighter jet program with Italy and Japan. That itself is a major statement about collaborative development of high-end military capabilities. It's
Wow.
sharing the burden, sharing the tech.
So what's the overall impact of these kinds of partnerships on the UK's strategic position? How does it help?
They're vital, absolutely
Yeah.
vital. Firstly, they enhance interoperability. That means our forces can work more seamlessly alongside allies during joint operations or crises. That's crucial. They also allow for technology sharing, which can accelerate development and reduce costs. And importantly, they help present a unified front against shared threats. Ultimately, these alliances are instrumental, not just for UK security, but for wider global stability. And they ensure the UK continues to have influence on the world stage.
Looking ahead then, wrapping things up slightly, what are the main challenges you see on the horizon for UK national security, and maybe the opportunities?
Well, looking forward, the challenges are pretty significant. The sophistication of cyber threats just keeps increasing. That's a constant battle. Securing our critical national infrastructure, energy grids, communication networks, transport against all sorts of threats, physical and digital, remains a huge task.
And anything else?
Yes, something we're increasingly aware of is adapting to the impacts of climate change, how that affects military operations, resource competition, global stability. It's a growing factor in defense planning.
And the opportunities?
On the opportunity side, well, there's huge potential in harnessing new technologies effectively. If the innovation drive works, that's a major plus. Continuing to foster that domestic innovation ecosystem and, crucially, deepening those international partnerships we just discussed. By really focusing on those areas proactively, the UK can definitely enhance its resilience and, maintain a strong security posture, even in a pretty complex world.
Dr. Thornton, this has been incredibly insightful. Thank you so much for breaking down such a complex topic for us.
It was my pleasure, Emily. Happy to discuss it.
And thank you, our listeners, for joining us on this Secure Horizons deep dive brought to you by the Westferry Times. We've touched on quite a lot today: the big spending increases, new laws like the National Security Act, the push for innovation, the importance of alliances like GCK, and the agreement with Germany. It's clear the landscape is shifting rapidly. Staying informed and engaged as things develop is, well, more important than ever. Thank you again for tuning in to Westferry Times. Do subscribe to our channel for more discussions like this. Until next time, stay safe.